Hey guys, welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And most importantly, getting into the chat and letting me know what you guys are thinking and feeling. We're going to talk about Port Vale today and do a little building the lineup together. I'm sure we all have ideas on who should play and how we should manage. A big week for us. We just played Manchester City. We're playing Port Vale tomorrow, and then we're going to turn around and go away from home to Newcastle. So the traveling, need to keep people fresh. We're obviously getting new injuries every week. Noni is out for, according to David Ornstein, 2 months. Now, Wayne is saying in the chat that Arteta said it's just going to be weeks, but let's just assume that David Ornstein is telling the truth and that it's going to be more than just a couple of weeks. But, you know, I'm sure it's going to come up sooner rather than later, but I do sense that some Arsenal fans are starting to ask real questions about why we continue to get all these injuries. You could say it's luck, you could say it's the amount of games, but the frequency and the amount of injuries that these players are sustaining is starting to become scary. Because Hincapié comes straight in injured after playing like 5 minutes. Norgard comes in, he's injured, and we haven't seen him really since. Noni's been here for 5 seconds, he's injured. And the problem with these injuries is that even though we have a deep squad, everybody that comes back is instantly put into a situation where they have to play a lot of minutes because the person that's meant to be, their backup or somebody that they're sharing time with is now out. You're seeing that situation with Timber and White. And I just feel like I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's just luck, but at some stage, these players can't just be playing on like fresh, new, as soon as they get fit, they're back on for like game after game after game after game. We have good depth, but I'm not sure that we have an infinite amount of supply of players that can keep sustaining injury, come back, and then come back to playing every single game. It's very much so looking like a merry-go-round. And Noni being injured means that Saka, who's just now recovering from his fresh injury, is now going to be playing lots of minutes. So it's not the best. I do remember Thierry Henry asking questions about this, and you know, he was called jealous and anti-fan and all that kind of stuff, but it's happening at an alarming rate. Like, we're going into our second season, where the first season there was a lot of like, it's just bad luck and they're just playing lots of games. We're going into another season where it's looking very similar to last season. It's looking very like, as soon as the season starts, injury after injury after injury. So it's not the best feeling. We do have the type of squad that can probably handle it. But, I feel bad for Noni because I do think that he was just starting to like really get his footing. And yes, like, we wanted more end product, but I felt like it was going to come. And I was also looking forward to a situation where Eze, Madueke, and Saka were available, and maybe we could use all three of them together. But c'est la vie, one in, one out. I mean, when we say one in, one out, it is like it's not even like a joke anymore. It's so real. It's so real right now. We are, not even 10 games in, and I know we've had at least 5 or 6 injuries already. So yeah, it's a tough one, but maybe this opens up an opportunity to see Max Dowman against Port Vale, which I think would be a welcome maybe distraction from some of the things that have been happening over the last couple of match weeks. So seeing Max Dowman always seems to lift the spirits of the fan base, and so this is probably an opportunity to let Max Dowman play, let Ethan play, and have a little bit of fun. So yeah, let's see what you guys are saying. Josh says, for years and years, players always get injured. Every player that comes to Arsenal suddenly gets injury prone. Sorry, it just went out for some reason. Well, we have injuries, no excuses. Pull from the academy if you have to and unearth some gems. When Yeri there, down in there, use them. Have you heard Mikel's pre-match interview, Pure Waffle? I don't listen to his interviews that much, I'll be honest. Hey, Jess, hope all is well. I'm very concerned about the way our players are always getting injured. Something is not right at the Arsenal training ground. Sigh, an injury in every single Premier League game we've played, by the way. Waylon says, good evening. Sala says, hi, just welcome. Yeah, it feels like it's happening a lot. So I'm not sure why this is happening, but I do think you would be maybe lying to yourself if you haven't thought maybe it's on the training ground. Because like last season was meant to be an anomaly, and of course you get injuries, but it's like the amount of injuries that we're getting is starting to become like really scary, and it seems like people get to Arsenal and then all of a sudden they get injured. You guys know Hincapié never really had an injury in his whole entire career before he got here and got injured instantly like that. You know, can't remember who mentioned this, but someone said our training with Arteta's man manager. There's definitely an element of, I can't see the training ground, so I don't know, but maybe that's it. But also, there's just like, you know, I feel like a lot of this is the repercussions, or some of it is the repercussions of early on in Arteta's tenure, his inability to rotate. Whether that was, they made a lot of excuses for him, said he didn't have the type of team that he could rotate, but you were playing Saka and Ben White and Odegaard into the ground. That right-hand side was literally played into the ground for like 3 seasons. They played 90 minutes almost every single game. Gabriel played 90 minutes almost every single game. When Saliba came in, he played 90 minutes almost every single game because Arteta didn't trust anyone else. He didn't trust Emile Smith-Rowe. He didn't trust Fabio Vieira. He didn't trust Reece Nelson. He didn't trust any of these players. And yes, we said like, oh, but they're not good. But there were times where we would be like 5-0 up, 4-0 up, 3-0 up, and he wouldn't even take Saka off. There were games where they were playing in Community Shield, or not Community Shield, Carabao Cup, and Saka would come on for 20 minutes. Why is he coming on for 20 minutes? And so when you do that, now we're in that spiral where there are some players that just cannot get fit. The players that have come in to replace them are also sustaining injuries because they don't have backups, because the person that they're meant to be backing up is not fit either. And so now we have players in the spiral. The two that scare me the most are Ben White and Timber. Those two players are so important to this team. And of course we have Mascara, but the fact that they cannot get a healthy rotation between the two of them is very scary. But the first issue, like the first crime, was playing Ben White into the ground. Ben White, for years, I mean, for a whole season, he played with a big strapping on his knee. They didn't give him surgery. He ended up having to get it. He spent a whole season out, and Timber played almost every single minute of every single game after an ACL tear. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. That makes no sense to me. So, yes, we've had some unlucky moments, and yes, we can't see everything, but I feel like there's enough that you can see where you probably think some of our key players probably shouldn't have played as much as they played. If you never watched it, I think you should. He's very arrogant and sounds like he has all the answers. I've stopped watching like 3 years ago. Chosen One says, Jess, can we build an 11 for Port Vale? I think it's important. Actually, we will for sure. Jordan says, Liverpool training regime is not as intense as Arsenal's. Liverpool also fully fit while playing more intense. When you have one season where you are like ravaged with injuries, you can look at that and say it's an anomaly, it's unlucky. But we're now going into the second season and it's feeling very similar to last season. Everyone's injured. Now, Odegaard's injury is different because it's a contact injury. That's not something that I feel like, it's kind of like Marino's injury when he first got here. That was a fluke. That shit happens. But the Saka injury, the Madueke injury, the Saliba injury, those are the ones that I'm really talking about. The Hincapié injury, the Norgard injury, where are these ones coming from? Because These injuries are just like, boom, they're out, and we're in like the little spiral. We're lucky, not lucky, but it's a good thing that we built a team that can sustain so many injuries, but we really shouldn't be getting this much, I don't think. Social Join says chickens have come to roost. Poor management has caught up. Bad buys, high wages, overplaying players, all catching up now. Can't wait till he's gone. It's all unraveling for Arteta from every side. I do not see any way back for him. It's Ben White's fault. Make no sense for me to feel pain and want to play. It's the play fault to play fit. Zach and Havertz also rush back equals setbacks, which that makes sense, that they have to be rushed back to a certain extent. They can't just like ease in, but there's no reason to rush Saka and Havertz back because you had Madueke and Gyökeres, but here we are. Havertz out for so long. I mean, we're basically going to be looking towards like December and January to get Havertz, Noni, and probably Jesus in. But by that time, some other people will have injuries, So it's unfortunate, but we just have to kind of deal with it. But I do feel like it's okay to have questions because this is abnormal. This is not like everyone else. Every single team has had one season where they were ravaged with injuries. Newcastle had one. I remember Tottenham had one, where it was just like there was just no one there. They're pulling from their academy, things like that. But we're going into a second season of a very similar feeling where like we have a big injury every game. That don't make no sense. Social Join says that's why Tommy is on sabbatical. We rushed him back when he was already fragile. Anyone playing false nine here, your knees will be gone. Horrible style of play. I mean, we're an injury away from Marino playing striker. Like that's kind of where we're at right now. So like we have to keep Gyökeres fit, but like I don't even think Arteta really cares that much because he's probably like not hoping for it, but I think he'd like to revert back to the false nine anyway. But it's just something is not right, but I can't put my finger on it, so I'm not gonna I don't wanna say for sure that, "Oh, it's the training ground," but if Thierry Henry asked that question and he knows football and he's been, at Barcelona, he's been at Arsenal, and he's also been a coach, there's probably something there, but you can't really say that because people just say that you're just looking for something to be upset about. But why wouldn't you be upset that you're going into a second season where we can't keep anyone fit? Why wouldn't you be upset about that? Why wouldn't you be questioning that? Jordan says, I have a feeling Gyökeres will end up injured soon. Hopefully not, but the amount of work Arteta has him doing on the pitch is crazy. And maybe it's an element of our players do too much like defensive work or too much like the style of play that we play is way too it's too much. It's too physically demanding. There's too much like people doing things that don't fit what their body is supposed to be doing. And people are doing things that just don't suit their profile. I know I feel like our attackers do too much defensive work. Then there's a huge difference between what they do and being responsible defensively, which because somebody will say, yeah, but PSG's forwards, they defend. What do you mean? Oh, so it's just only bad when Arteta does it? It's not the same. It's just not the same. We're not talking about the difference between being Mbappe and doing what Saka is doing. We're literally talking about like it's totally different. Like we our attackers at some points play like fullbacks. You see them clearing balls off of the line. It's crazy, and there's just a lot of off the ball stuff that we're doing. And yes, some of it makes us good, but maybe there's just too much pressure on the body. And one thing that I always have questioned, and I don't know for sure, don't come for me. I know some people are so sensitive about this kind of stuff, but when you have like center backs that are like natural center backs, bigger bodies that don't move as agile, I do wonder if all that running up and down the touch line and, all that going inside and playing like an interior and trying to play midfield, is just putting their bodies under unnecessary stress. I wonder, because we have a lot of people that are natural center backs that would be doing a lot less running, doing a lot more running. That's kind of what I felt like happened with Tommy. His when he played for Japan, he would just play center back. And I know that at Bologna, he played as a fullback, but we have to recognize that being a fullback in the Premier League with Mikel Arteta is not the same as playing fullback for Bologna and Serie A. So I just wonder if it's just too intense and too much stuff. It's just too hard. I don't know, but people come in and they get injured right away, and I just don't think that that's normal. Jonathan says Slot came in, they lower intensity second half under Klopp, a lot more injuries. Management matters. I have not seen as a sprint before like he did versus Bilbao. Slot came to a team that had 2 seasons of recovery from injury, stopped the cap as if he's doing anything. Slot definitely. If you want to say that Mohamed Salah lied when he went on national television and said that when Slot came in, he asked him what he wanted. And Salah said, I'd like to do less defensive work so I can focus on just being a good attacker. And since then, he's had less stress on his body and he's been able to give 110% to the attack. If you're saying that Salah sat up there and lied, fair enough. But just completely and always discounting just evidence that's there. We play a much more robust style in terms of off the ball defensive work, and maybe that's catching up to people. And maybe Arteta could take a page out of Slot's book, somebody that's actually won something, no offense, but you haven't won anything. He came straight in and won. So maybe he knows what you need to do in order to get your attackers playing at a high level and keep them from re-injuring themselves. Saka's injuries and like injury proneness or whatever you want to call it, we're just going to call it his injuries right now. But that was always in the post. It was always going to be the case that at some stage his body would break down. He's been playing nonstop for Arsenal since he was 18 or whatever. And everybody will say, yeah, well, Salah doesn't get a rest. So why would Saka get a rest? Salah is not playing as high intensity as Saka's playing. He's not defending as much as Saka's defending. It's just different, So, yeah. And if you want Saka to have the same type of career as Salah, you might want to lay off a little bit. I played forward my whole life at Sunday league. That donkey work, flick-ons, hold-up play, always press striker play is the worst style. That was when I got injured the most. I moved to left wing forward. Man, I just wish Saka can fully recover. He's my favorite player. Well, not sure when that's going to be. Mikel makes his players, including the attackers, play an extremely rigid defensive physical style. Every single game, no freedom or creativity takes a toll. And I wonder if like mentally it takes a toll on them too, because you have to think so much. They always look like they're thinking so hard and they're not playing instinctively. So I just wonder. I'm just querying, I'm just asking. We're just discussing. Jess, it's time for Arteta stops demanding so much defensive work from the likes of Saka and Martinelli. Imagine them 2 on the green light only. Yeah, it would be nice to see. I think Arteta is really fully bought in to this style. And so I don't foresee it changing, if I'm honest. I just think he's going to double down on it. And we'll see where we are at the end of the season. But, players are going to be, I feel like, worried a little bit about what's going to happen with the World Cup. I'm not saying that they're going to stop playing for us, but, that's something to keep in mind, that players are not going to want to be getting their, playing their socks off every single game. And not getting any rest and not getting proper recovery and ruining their chances of going to the World Cup. So that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. Brian says, we know Arteta is a fraud, but what is it going to take to get him out? He's not getting out. He's not going anywhere. That's the reality. Jonathan says, Jess, good point mentally. Same boys for 6 years. It's natural to get tired. Nicholas says, having arguably the greatest defense in the world in world football comes at a cost. There's not enough focus on ball playing here. This physical fetish looking crazy. And back to Nicholas's comment, I love having the best defense in the world. It's really nice to see Arsenal being defensively solid and competent when you've been through so many years of not having that with the Mustafis and but I would genuinely give up some of that defensive solidity to get better balance going forward, because I feel like there's no point in having the best defense in the world if they can only keep you in the game, but you can't win some games because your attack is just not there. And I feel like that's kind of where we are, where the defense, it takes so much precedent, but we forget that football is about scoring goals. And if you don't do that freely and do it a lot, especially as like a good team, if you can't break down certain teams, if you're still struggling with mid blocks, if you don't create chances like at nauseum, if you can't create chaos in the final third, it almost feels like something that you're holding on to that doesn't really, it's not going to lead you anywhere. And so having the best defense in the world would mean so much more to me if I knew that we would play against Bournemouth at home and we would break them down easily and score 2 or 3 goals. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's really what I'm looking forward to. I wanna see what we're gonna be like against Fulham and Bournemouth and these guys, because we know we struggle with them, and early signs say that we still have the same problems that we did last season. So, I get it that we have, and it can't comes at a cost, having the greatest defense in world football, but if the greatest defense in world football doesn't have an attack that mirrors it, I would almost take away some of that in order to get the better balance going forward. Like the conversation that we're having about Liverpool, and does Liverpool have a good defense? Of course they do. Their defense is not as good as ours, but their defense is good enough where, they do keep clean sheets. Obviously they've had kind of like, weirdness at the beginning of the season, but last season they weren't really having like a huge issue with their defense. They just scored a lot too. So kind of like how we were in the 2022-2023 season, we definitely could have used we definitely could have been more defensively solid, but I think our problem wasn't that our defense was bad. It was we were making a lot of individual errors. And instead of just taking that and getting, replacing White with Timber and replacing, Zinchenko with somebody else, we completely just threw it all away. And so I think we probably just needed a new goalkeeper and a couple better defenders, and we would have conceded a little bit less, but been able to keep that attacking structure. But yeah, it's just the balance is not really there. And I don't know if you guys have watched my video yet. I anticipated that video getting a lot of comments, and it did, which is what I wanted. I want to create content that people feel like they want to talk about, and then also have people have differences of opinions. But I spoke about that in my last video, talking about Mikel being the problem, but also, being the solution. If he wants to get back to a place where we're scoring lots of goals and stuff like that, we can. We can do those things, and he can definitely fix the team and get us going that way, but he has to release the handbrake. And the balance is just totally off. It's totally off. And if we're again, we're in a position where if the defense does not keep a clean sheet, it's not it's not a certainty that we're going to score a goal. And I think that that's what's scary about where we are right now, is we've switched out the attackers, but we've had 3 games so far this season that we weren't sure if we were going to score enough goals. And if you don't keep the clean sheet, like if Man United had scored a goal in any of those attacks that they had, we would have definitely dropped points, because there was no chance of us scoring another goal, because the goal that we scored was off a set piece and pretty much a goalkeeper error. Liverpool, there was no chance we were going to score a goal, especially with Eze not out there from the beginning. So the defense had to keep a clean sheet, and they didn't, and we lost. Against Man City, the defense didn't keep a clean sheet. They kept the game close. We only conceded 1 goal, but that was enough to make sure that Arsenal would not win the game. And so the balance is just off, and I don't feel like that's wrong. I see a lot of the more positive Arsenal fans saying the similar things, but they just don't like when certain people say it. But I feel like we all agree, but they only get mad when certain people say it, and it's like, but we all know it's true. We're not scoring, and we're not scoring enough, or we're not creating enough chances. We still look like we're struggling with the mid block, and the games that we look good going forward were against teams that were Leeds and Nottingham Forest that were really, really poor on the day. Not that we didn't deserve it, but You get what I'm saying? So what are we gonna look like against Bournemouth? What are we gonna look like against Fulham? I should not be thinking in 2025 what's gonna happen when we play against these teams, but I have to because I'm not sure we're gonna score. I'm not sure we're gonna score. I'm not. Mafia Boss says, "Big up Jess." Walkstar says, I've never seen a number 10 that we have to beg to start. Arteta, Mr. Self-Sabotage. Zach is Arsenal. Mafia Boss says, smash the likes, please, people. Jordan says, let the players enjoy their football. They look miserable on the pitch. And maybe it's projection, because I've said the same thing. And, people will tell me that I'm just projecting because I'm miserable watching us play. But I don't get a sense that they're playing with joy. So, we're Arsenal fans at the end of the day. One thing we know for sure is good football and what it looks like when we're playing good football and they're having fun. They don't look like they're having fun, but maybe they're having the best fucking time, and I just can't tell. Mikel will get himself fired. It's already on its way. Everything has changed at the club. Exec directors, all Mikel's yes men fired. The club's already refreshed. Only thing not refreshed is the head coach. Did you criticize Supreme Leader Mikel? Yeah, I said he's sabotaging. Like, of course. I told the truth. Everybody's saying it. It's just a problem when certain people say it. I basically said in that video, he's the problem, but he's also can be the solution. And they were in the comment section saying, "Oh my gosh, you can't sack him." I'm like, I didn't say sack him, but he's like Social Join said, he'll get himself sacked. Like, me saying whether or not I want him here is not going to change anything. If he's not winning, he will eventually get sacked. Like, it's inevitable if he doesn't win, whether I'm saying it or not. Nicholas says, totally agree, Jess. Hoping we can find the balance right. We keep saying it's only game week 1, game week 2. Exactly. It's still early on in the season, but the changes should have happened in preseason. And when we played against Spurs in preseason, that looked so similar to the types of games that we dropped points in last season. And it kind of looks similar to the Man City game where we had all this possession and we're passing it sideways and backwards, but we didn't really create any chances. They came down one time. Actually, we made a mistake and they scored off of that mistake and it ended up being 1-0 and we looked terrible. Like, we would look really bad. Then we came back from Asia and then played against Bilbao. That was probably the best that we looked in preseason. We were not very good against Villarreal. And so again, and Thomas Frank knows how to put together a stubborn and organized mid-block. He did that against us in preseason and we lost. Like, City did it against us at home and we drew. If you can't see it, that it's not about it being week 1, week 2, week 3, we still have the same issues and Arteta has not changed. The players have changed and he kind of tried it against Bilbao and Man United, but ultimately we're still playing the exact same way that we've been playing over the last 2-3 seasons, and we still have the same problems, so I don't know if you didn't change after the 23-24 season and you didn't change after 25-20 or 24-25 season, then what hope do I have that you're going to change after the 25-26 season? What's the incentive for him to change? There is none. He's doing panels and shit talking about, his philosophy and stuff, so why would he change? Mafia Boss says tough as they got to play period at Wilma. Let's see. Cronkies are friends with Arteta. He's going nowhere. Josh says, you're right, Jess. Whether you're a negative or a positive fan, you cannot fool the fans. And best believe our players aren't enjoying the football. I got tired of just saying, just feeling like I needed to sing from the same hymn sheet. Like, if I don't think things are going right, and ultimately I'm the type of fan that, and maybe I'm just too simple, and I just don't understand football enough. But if you're not winning trophies and you're meant to be because you're a top side, you can't be wanting all this respect and getting upset when the pundits talk about Arsenal in a certain way and bringing up unbeaten records and 91 points and stuff like that, but not have elite team requirements. And that requirement is to win trophies. And so if you're not winning trophies, something is not right, especially after 5-6 seasons, so maybe it's just too simplified, but of course I'm going to start asking questions after I started asking questions after like the fourth year, really. Um, and the questions have remained. Can he get us over the line? Like, that's what I'm asking, So, I mean, w- as an Arsenal fan, why are we pretending like we're not supposed to be winning? What the fuck? Arteta gets no credit for me for the equalizer. That was a moment of genius from a brilliant player who he only played for 45 minutes. He didn't draw that up at all. Wasn't his patterns of play. 5 years and we're still begging for 3 triangle passes in a central area, 3 playmaker on the bench against rivals. There's no change coming. Fans know their players. No owner or manager can fool us into thinking otherwise. Franco says, it still puzzles me that Arteta didn't start as a 10. Why start Marino, who isn't creative enough? Because he only cares about what happens off the ball. Like, I think somebody had said that yesterday on the show, and I was like, thank you for saying that, because I've never said it like that, and I've never heard anybody say it like that, but he picks his team based on the off the ball, how good you are off the ball, or how he perceives you off the ball. Um, which is why when we play against anybody in Manchester City, Liverpool, and any team away from home in the Champions League, he goes with Marino instead of other players, because he doesn't trust Ethan or Eze off the ball. It's just that simple. It's why Martinelli started for so long. It's because he knows that like Martinelli is going to do the off the ball stuff. He rates him off the ball more than Trossard or Eze or whoever, So I think it's just that simple. He views Man City still as like this scary side, that we need to be super wary of. And so he's going to go with the off the ball stuff because his plan is always to keep the game tight and make sure that it's highly likely that we don't lose, and then maybe go forward in the 70th minute by putting on the Ezes and these players if he feels safe enough to do so. So that's why he doesn't start Eze at the 10. That's why he doesn't start Ethan away from home in the right center mid position. It's why Martinelli has been favored over anyone else. It's because it's about off the ball, and I get it to a certain extent, but when the player that you bring in, the trade-off is so big in terms of what we can do attacking wise, that starts to look worse especially when you're at home and you're in front of your own people and you don't feel confident enough after spending how much money on new attackers. Like, that's crazy to me, So yeah, and this is like the worst iteration of City that we've seen in a long time, and Arteta still plays them like they're the treble team. For once, I agree with Gary Neville. He said, we can't keep listening to Mikel. Look at his actions, tactics, team selections. And, listen, I feel like most of the things when it comes to the Gary Nevilles and the Carragers and those guys, it hurts when they say negative things about Arsenal, but they're not always wrong. It's coming from somebody that you don't want it to come from. It's just that simple. I used to get really rattled, like maybe 3 seasons ago, when people would say negative things about Arsenal, because it wasn't so much that they were wrong. It was so much I didn't like hearing rivals say it. But ultimately, I don't necessarily disagree with some of the stuff that they say about the way that we play, the way that we approach big games. I think some of it is obviously clickbaity and they're trying to make sure that they get their clicks, but we wouldn't be able to give them their clicks if we beat the allegations. These allegations have been around for multiple seasons. The only difference between now and then is the results are not going in our favor. When you draw 0-0 away from home against Man City, you can always hand wave that away. When you nick the deflected Martinelli goal at home, you can hand wave it away, even though it was a poor game in terms of like the spectacle. Both teams really, the KG chess match, which is just another way of saying that it was a shit game by two teams that just played horrible, really. And we nicked it. So when the results were going our way, we could just say, well, yeah, but we have this big 6 record and all this kind of stuff. Now that that's gone, and the results are not going our way and the margins are not falling on our direction, what Gary Neville and these guys are saying starts to feel more real. And I feel like that's just where we are right now, which is why you can't just do results-based analysis. Results-based analysis around our performances in those big games is why we're getting to this point. Now the results are not there. People are like, oh shit. Yeah. Oh shit. We do not play like a big team against the big teams. We definitely play to keep it tight and not lose. Because if you wanted to win, you'd play your best team. Full stop. Franco says Arsenal will not win the Premier League. Liverpool attack is unstoppable. Khalid, thank you so much for your super chat. I do really appreciate it. Arteta has favorites. I feel he doesn't want to play as a Wanyeri, Lewis, Skelly because they will outshine his favorites. We have squad depth, but don't use the squad. But I totally understand this, the favorites thing. I don't even think it's about favorites, Khalid. I really, really don't. I think it's just as simple as he does not view certain players. Miles Lewis Skelly was not even supposed to be playing. That's just the reality. We got so many injuries in that left back position, but it was always going to be Calafiori. And I'm going to be really honest with you, when it comes to Calafiori versus Lewis Skelly, I don't really have that big of an issue with Calafiori playing. I don't think Calafiori is keeping us from winning games. I don't think Calafiori, up until probably the Man City game, he's been one of our best performers. Lewis Skelly not playing left back over Calafiori doesn't really bother me that much. With Ethan and Eze, it's just as simple as Arteta preferring players that help him keep his defensive solidity. It's not really about favorites or anything like that. It's just about that. When somebody said that the other day, it made the most sense. Arteta is defensive and pragmatic. He views Marino and players like that as ones that he can trust off the ball. He doesn't trust Ethan and Eze off the ball. That's why they don't play in those games. It's just that simple. That's why Eze didn't start at left wing against Liverpool or against Man City, or not Man City, Man United. Well, he wasn't there against Man United, but Martinelli started off the ball. That's it. It's just about that. Ayara says Arteta keeps feeding us chums and wants us to imagine it's a Krabby Patty. Calafiori kind of helps us win games truly. That's why the Miles Lewis Skelly thing is, I can understand it more if, maybe it's more about him not playing in midfield. Maybe it's that more than anything. But I wouldn't begrudge Arteta not playing his player of the season, which was pretty much Declan Rice last season. So, Declan Rice is going to take precedent over Miles Lewis Skelly, which I feel like taking your emotions out of it, that really shouldn't surprise you nor be something that you're upset about. And then when it comes to left back, we not only bought Hincapié now, but now Calafiori is there. And Calafiori was brought in, not last season, but the season prior. Well, no, actually last season, to be the starting left back. And he's really not like a bad player. He's actually a really special player. So, Miles is just going to have to fight for that position. And I get that he was like phenomenal last season, but we also have to protect Miles too, because be really honest with yourself for 5 seconds. How good was Miles Lewis Skelly in preseason? Be honest. Just keep it a buck. This is coming from somebody that loves Miles. He was really poor in preseason. I really think he needs protection, because if you put him out there a couple of times and he gets whooped, it's not going to look good. Let's see if he plays him against Port Vale. Hincapié is injured. Calafiori should probably be playing against Newcastle. Let's see how he is against Port Vale, because he wasn't good in preseason. He wasn't. I'm just going to keep it a buck, but Calafiori has pretty much been one of our best players this season, so that's how the cookie crumbles. It's not like, I don't know, Cedric is playing over Miles Lewis Skelly right now, starting left back for England. He needs minutes though to make the squad. He's not going to not get minutes though, Jonathan. He's not going to not get minutes. But it's not like Calafiori's playing bad. He's been one of our best players. So, and Miles was not good in preseason, and he was always going to lose his spot to the player that was brought in And the only reason why like Calafiori did not play last season was because he was injured. That's the only reason. So I feel like it was always in the post that Miles was going to drop down the pecking order just a little bit. But there's plenty of minutes to go around. I just don't see any sort of emergency with Miles with Skelly right now. I really don't. I feel like there's this emphasis on whoever's on the bench is being treated poorly by Mikel and should be starting, but every single one of them have a very unique situation, and the context applied needs to be applied appropriately. I understand Ethan, and I definitely understand Eze, but with Miles, I don't really hold the same. I don't hold the same. The player that's playing in his position has been one of our best players this season, so he'll get his time. He will, because Calafiori is not going to stay fit. We know that. So Zachary says, right. I said a couple of minutes ago, Miles did not look great in preseason and should get the start tomorrow. Did you know we have won only one game out of 10 when Marino and Rice have played together? Why can't Arteta see this? He knows it. He just doesn't care. He doesn't. IR says MLS is naturally a left center mid. If only Arteta could get off his high horse, allow Rice to get his fitness back by playing MLS, but Arteta is definitely not going to do that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know when MLS is gonna start getting minutes in midfield, but with MLS, I'm a little bit like I said, I understand where you guys are coming from. I just feel like I'm a little bit more lukewarm on the MLS thing because he was poor in preseason. He played a lot of minutes that he wasn't supposed to play last season, and the player that was bought for that position is not only fit, but is one of our best players right now. So, and the other player that he would be taking the position of is, by all intents and purposes, one of our best players and was our pretty much our player of the season last season. So he's going to get benefit of the doubt. He's definitely going to get, more than just 5 games to get up to speed. So, and you guys would probably feel like that makes sense if it wasn't about MLS. Ethan could be terrible off the ball. He isn't, and his playmaking abilities would still outweigh the off the ball stuff tenfold. What's the point of the defense behind him? But this is the problem: is Arteta doesn't care. All he cares about is his off the ball structure, pressing, and making sure that he's solid. And so, whatever he sees from Ethan, it's not enough. I don't know if he's just not able to win enough duels, but I questioned this before, but because the players were not players that people liked, they wouldn't listen. But there was no reason why Emil Smith Rowe and Fabio Vieira could not have played a different role in our team 2 years ago. But because those players were not well liked, and it was very easy to find reasons why it made sense that they never really played, both of those players are natural number 10s. But when they would come in, Arteta would play them at left center mid in a position that in his system is very off the ball centric. It's not only a position where the player does not get on the ball, but they're actively always trying to figure out ways to get into that pocket to defend that space because the left back is given all the freedom on that side. So he essentially set up Emil and Fabio to fail, but because people don't like those players, it was easy for them to just say, yeah, but they're shit. But now the same thing is happening with Eze and Ethan, and people's eyes are open now. Arteta does not care about what's going on the ball. He just cares about what's going on off the ball. And as long as Eze and Ethan are more on the ball players, they're not going to be preferred in the big games away from home and games against City and Liverpool over the likes of Marino. Marino is preferred because off the ball duels. That's it. It's just that simple. Does Marino even have a position? MLS needed this break. We forget how young he is. I agree, Waylon. I don't think it's that big of a deal. MLS played so much more than Ethan last season. He played more than he probably should have. And I don't think it's that big of a deal that he's not starting right now. Now, if Calafiori starts playing horribly or gets injured, but even if he does get injured, I think it's already like Hincapié is going to play there. So I don't know what the plan is for MLS. We just have to kind of see how it unfolds. But this would be the perfect opportunity for Arteta to start moving him into midfield. I just don't know if I believe that that's what's happening because we don't know yet. There's very much so like a cloud of uncertainty around MLS. With the Hincapié signing, for me was like, That's interesting. Not that I not want Hincapié, but when you have Calafiori and you have MLS, you know, I'm not saying you're set there, but you know. Tig says, I think Jess can turn faster than Marino in the midfield. The guy always thinks he has 10 seconds to do everything. Now, why am I in it? Why did I catch a stray? Why did I catch a stray? I know you're trying to like that was a little shady. I liked it. But Marino, this is the same. This is just Kai Havertz in midfield all over again. It's just Kai Havertz all over again. It's Kai Havertz being preferred in midfield over Emil and Fabio. The biggest difference between this situation and that is that people had they did not like Fabio and did not rate Emil anymore. So it was easy to just say, well, they're just not good enough, and Kai, he's good off the ball and he's a box crasher, a Roman daughter, what is it? Whatever. Roman daughter or whatever. Now, because it's Eze and Ethan and it's Marino, it's the same thing. It's not about favorites. Arteta doesn't really want a number 10. He moved away from a number 10 a long time ago, and number 10s are naturally not very good off the ball, so he's like, I don't want that. I don't want that. Nicholas says, same way Liverpool and City won the league with Chelsea rejects Salah and KDB. We need to stop caring about what players do for their country. That's cheap way to think. Open your eyes to Arteta ball. I told you so, Jess. Norgard, MLS Wanieri tomorrow, who says no. Let's actually get into it now because that's what Wayne, that's what people were saying. They were, he's a Rom daughter, he's a Rom daughter, he's a Rom daughter, or whatever. And I'm like, he's not a midfielder. He's not a midfielder. Arteta loves these. He loves the Marino, the Kai, even this like Sunset. I like Sunset, you know, like covering La Liga, that is a fun player to talk about. But the fact that we're linked to him as well is mental illness because he is no different than Marino and Kai Havertz. He's a bigger goal threat, but he doesn't create chances. When you see attacking mids that have more goals than assists, you know what you're getting, so and like a lot more goals than assists, by the way. So this whole Roim daughter bullshit, the second striker bullshit, I've hated it since minute one. But it seems to be becoming more and more popular, as time goes on. And I'm just like, there was a time where I thought, Xhaka was the biggest evil. I would totally go back to Xhaka in that last season and ride off into the sunset and forget about all this shit because I'm tired of it. It's tiring. It's German for space invader position. I can't stand it. It sounds so weak. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Let's go ahead and build our lineup while you can see what kind of stuff I'm looking at, because of the targeted ads, towels and shit from Amazon. But here we go. All right. I'm expecting heavy rotation. The thing I hate about these games is that we always think we're going to put in this exciting lineup that's different than what we usually play, which it really shouldn't be the case, that the lineup becomes more exciting and more interesting to watch out, in these games. It should actually be the opposite. These should be the games where we want to watch less because we're seeing players that we don't want to see as much, but it's the opposite. That's the Arteta experience, but it's never the case that these games are exciting like that. Those are the arson days. The arson days, even like Unai Emery days, we would go into games in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup early stages, play all the kids, and we would beat them up 6-0. Them days are gone. We know we're going to struggle. It's going to be close. It's going to be bullshit. But, at least maybe we can see some of the players we've been dying to see. So Kepa, White, definitely have to get some rest for Timber. So Mascara then, right? At least let me watch Mascara. Norgard. who came and fell off the proverbial cliff. Where did he go? But he's back. All right. So this is kind of all I have. What else? Gabrielle, I guess, you know, should probably start, or you could put Hincapié here in MLS, but I don't think Hincapié is going to be fit because he fuck around and got injured. So, what else? What do you guys think? Saliba Mascara. I love him days. Was already excited to see the kids Wenger had. I want 210s when Yarian Eze, Norgard, CDM. Wenger Carabao Cup days were genuinely exciting. Rest Gabrielle, but rest Gabrielle with who? I guess that's what I'm asking, because if Hincapié is not fit, then are you guys wanting to play Calafiori there? Because I feel like we need to rest Calafiori for the Newcastle game. So such a crazy concept, honestly. You're right, but it's crazy to imagine not playing your most talented and technical attackers because of duels. Gabrielle will probably start, then later Timber comes on. So I'm going to put Gabrielle here because I don't actually see another option. If Hincapié is not there and we need to look to, protect Calafiori because we know he's brittle, then it needs to be Gabrielle and Miles them. Also, I think in these games as well, there needs to be a grown-up in the room on each line because it could get stupid really quick. Like, this team, Port Vale, will be trying to do a Grimsby Town on us. We're away from home. They're gonna be, trying their hardest to make a name for themselves. And so if there's no grown-ups in the room, you can easily get swept up and fuck around and find out. And so even though I know it's like, just rotate everyone out, some people are just gonna have to suffer and just are gonna have to play more than probably they would want to, especially because we have injuries now with other players. So unfortunately, like, this is very rotated. You have the goalkeeper's different, the left back is not the starter. Mascara coming in, and White. Gabrielle, grown up in the room, keeps things from getting silly, because we could get silly. We can get silly, so yeah. But I'm going with Ethan. I'm just so sorry, but I'm tired. I haven't seen Ethan in 2 games, so, or 1 game, but I haven't seen Ethan. No, 2 games. I have not seen Ethan. I wanna see Ethan. Sorry. I said what I said. Also, so here's the thing. I think we need to rest Gyökeres. So we need to play somebody else down the middle. You just put Marino up top. Fuck it. Put Marino up top. These are his kind of games. Put Saka on the right. Or because Saka hasn't really played in a couple games, but he still looks sharp. So maybe no Saka. Dalman, Marino, Martinelli, or Trossard in the 9, or Nelly at striker. Max, Ethan, Skelly time. Nelly at striker. Bring on Marley. Trossard, Nelly, Ethan. Okay. Martinelli up top. Well, you got to rest Marino for Newcastle because you're going to have to go wrestler for wrestler, shin kick for shin kick, aren't you? So let's do what you guys want to do. Let's do the Martinelli in the 9. Let's do Dalman. And then, yeah, so what we should do this, and then if shit gets stupid, then we can bring Saka off the bench. Unfortunately, like, you have to have something because I don't trust them. I don't. But this, and then Trossard, right? And Eze is like a starter and should be being rested. That's the disgusting thing about this is that Eze should not be playing in this game. He is not one of these. Like, it actually should be Marino, and you know what? I'm fucking petty. I'm petty. I'm sorry. Marino, this is your game. This is the game that you should be playing. You got Ethan, Dowman, and Miles O'Skelly in there. You're resting Eze because that's who you should be resting. You're resting Saka. You know, like, I'm not trying to see Eze have to play and Marino gets to start, against Newcastle. This is my world. I'm not playing that. Arteta isn't stopping Rice and Eze to play triangles. Marino and Norgard, oh hell no. I mean, what do you just want to see Eze pure hoop sesh? I mean, he's just like shouldn't even be in this 11. Like, he's a starter for Arsenal. This is for the people that are not the starters to play against Port Vale. Midfield should be Norgard, Marino, and Eze. Dowman isn't starting. He'll come on second half, but he isn't starting. Why not? Why not? Why not start him? I don't understand. Who are we starting instead? Thaka against Port Vale? These are the types of games he should be getting off. Martinelli, Trossard, Dowman. That's the front line I'm going with, whether it's Trossard in the 9 and Martinelli on the left. This is, I feel like, who we should be starting. Now, you guys want to put Eze in there, and I just feel like he should be rested for Newcastle. Like, if Odegaard can't play against Newcastle, then it should be Eze. It should be Eze, Zubamendi, Rice, Martinelli on the left, Gyökeres, and Saka. That should be who should play against Newcastle. And so Eze should be getting rest in this game, not playing with the backup players. It is. I know that we want to see the hoop sesh, but it's just like, I guess, fucking, I don't like it. Yo-Yo says, Gabriel, Timber, Calafiori aren't starting. I feel like there's no choice but to start Gabriel, though, because Hincapié is injured. So what other option do you have? Fans want to see Eze because Arteta's starving us from him. I get that, but it just feels so wrong for him to play against Port Vale. But yeah. So you guys want to play Mascara and Saliba back there? Okay. Fair enough. You want to do Mascara on the left and Saliba on the right. And so you want to do that instead? Okay. And then you want to do this instead. So you can rest Marino for Newcastle. Fair enough. Would like to see Kepa chance to look at what we got back up Ryan. Worst case scenarios is Trossard. Mikel is a madman. I wouldn't put it past him to go strong, play Timber. Saliba, Saka, Rice from the start. I can't live this way. I feel like these are the only types of teams Arteta will take the handbrakes off against. Let the ballers ball, fuck all these DMs, make a lineup attacking as possible. So whack. It should not be this way. It should be the other way. But this is probably close to what we would do. Eze, Norgard, Wanyeri, Dowman. It doesn't really get more attacking than that. But Kyle Saka should not be playing against Port Vale. That's where I draw the line, guys. I'm not Timber, Saka, these guys need to be rested. They don't need to be playing against Port fucking Vale. We're going away to Newcastle. That's a tough game. And we need those players to be as fresh as possible. So who can you absolutely not afford to lose is probably Gabriel. So you guys have taken Gabriel out. You can't afford to lose Timber. You cannot afford to lose Saka. So, and probably Rice. So this is what you're going with. I don't want Saka playing. I'm so sorry, but it's just It's just no, it's just ridiculous. Nah, Zachary, we need Arteta to come to his senses. I think Ethan starts right wing. Madueke is out now. Ethan is now backup right wing. I don't think he is. I think Dauman is the backup right wing. The thing with Ethan is that one of the things that was maybe not agreed on, but spoken about in his new contract renewal is that he wanted to be played in his right position, which is a big reason why Madueke is there now. Madueke was there to step in, and now we have Dauman in the squad. So why would we, if there's a genuine opportunity to play Ethan in his right position, why are we moving him to right wing for just the sake of it? Play him in his rightful position. Just play him at right center mid. Odegaard's not there and you're playing against a shit team. That is always the equation that allows for Ethan to play. So why would we not do that? So I'm leaving Ethan in his right position because Dauman is right there. Dauman is right there. He's literally right there. Like, why not? So I'm leaving it like this. I don't know why the obsession with moving Ethan to right wing just feels very backwards. I don't get it. Arteta lost the plot. This game against Port Vale has Merino written all over it. I don't know how to explain it. We need Gabby for Newcastle. They got us 6'6" and 6'7" guys. We need Gabby fresh bringing for duels. So Gabrielle out, Mascara and Saliba in, White in for Timber, Lewis Skelly in for Calafiori, Kepa in for Raya, Wanyeri at right center mid in his rightful position, Norgard, because he's appeared. Eze, I would put in Merino because fuck that. Eze should be rested for Newcastle and be resting his pretty feet up there, just like the rest of the starters and the main guy should, but he's not a main guy, so he's gonna be in this game. Dauman, Martinelli, Trossard, and whether this is Trossard in the 9 and Martinelli on the left wing, it doesn't really matter, because in the end of the day, this is what it's going to be. In the end of the day, Martinelli's going to go central and Trossard's going to go out to the wings. So, and you rest Gyökeres, Rice, Timber, Saka, Gabriel, and Calafiori. How can he not be a main guy? Well, he's not. He's not. Main guys get rested in these games. Main guys start against the best teams. Arteta he would always start his best group against what he would envision his best group is against Man City, and he didn't do that. He started Merino instead. So I just want to see MLS play. I miss him so much. Well, hopefully MLS plays in this game, which I think he will. Eze is better than the majority of our players. That must be the shortest front line. How can he not be a main guy? I read that 100%. They even had a clip of Odegaard interviewing Ethan last summer. It was kind of "You're the future" 10 type video. This is what I'm saying. This constantly wanting to move Ethan out of his rightful position just feels like, what are we doing? If he can play in this position against fucking Leeds and Nottingham Forest, then why would we not start him here? Because also there's a very good opportunity to play Eze in midfield. This will not happen though. Arteta's not going to play double tens. I know that it's like, oh, well, it's just, whatever, but he's not. He's not. He's going to play his usual 2 8s and a 6. I'm telling you that right now. So, but we can dream. We can definitely dream. What is this? Who do we play last season in the Carabao Cup? Let's see. We played someone, and I want to see what that lineup looked like. Let me just go back. So I forgot who it was. Porto. Oh, I went way too far back. Hold on. Preston. There it is. Let's see what that lineup looked like. Because this is kind of similar. Yeah, he went so last season when we played against, Preston, he had Setford, Timber, Saliba, Kivior, and Zinchenko, Ethan, Jorginho, Marino, Sterling, Jesus, and Martinelli. So this is most likely not going to be Eze. I'm gonna tell you that right now. It's probably gonna be Marino. So or Rice, which would be even worse. So yeah. When was the last time we won the League Cup? 92 or 93? It's been forever. Um, Setford only played because the other goalie was cup tied. Uh, Preston maybe. Yeah, it was Preston. Um, let's see. Start Trossard and you better score. Trossard is the same as Martinelli. We simply need more from them. Well, I'll be real with you. I don't necessarily disagree, but I feel like they've done really well for players that were largely written off before the season started. Like Trossard has what, 3 assists already this season or something like that? No, 2 goals and one goal and 2 assists. Martinelli has like 2 goals and an assist. So for players that were largely written off, they have more GA than a lot of the attackers that came in. So they're giving quite a bit for players that were largely written off, like that were being called the bomb squad, when the season started. So I don't really worry about Trossard. I don't really worry about them in these types of games. Like, you know, Nicholas says Rice needs to play into form. So, like, I don't necessarily disagree either that Rice needs to play into form. So maybe I do think that this left center mid position is going to be either Rice or Marino. I do. So and like let's think about how Arteta is probably going to set up against Newcastle, because against Newcastle, I feel like Martinelli. It's going to be Martinelli, Gyökeres, and Saka, and Rice, Zubamendi, Marino. So, you know, so does Rice need to play more or what? Tough. He can't perform the role he's being told to play. There's no form to come. As Ethan on top of the box and MLS Norgard on the base works to try versus lower league opposition. Arteta shouldn't completely give up on the principles he learned from La Masia. They're gone. His principles come from Everton. Martinelli and Trossard need to be bench players. I thought that was understood. They are bench players. They are, and they're doing well in the role that they have right now. Don't be wasting Rice energy on Port Vale when Joe Linton and that Guimaraes will be looking to foul all game. I kind of agree. I feel like I get that he needs to be played into form, but I kind of don't see the reason why risking him. And we know he's going to play against the physical midfield. So, maybe this is Marino that plays. I would love for Arteta to just stop. Like, so, you're going to have Rice and Zubamendi against Newcastle. Can you not afford for this player against Newcastle, this right center mid, to be one of Eze, Ethan, or Odegaard? And just play Marino against Port Vale. That's who he should be playing against. He's on Norgard's level. His spot in the squad is way too high. So I still feel like this should be Marino instead of Eze, because Eze should be starting against Newcastle in some position. But my gut is telling me it's going to be Martinelli and Marino starting. I wish Arteta plays MLS, Zubi as a midfield 3 when the time comes. That's the best midfield for me. We can't be scared of Newcastle every season, man. Go up there, man up, and win. Is Dalman really a winger like that, though? I feel like he'd be better in the 10. I just feel like there's nothing wrong with introducing Dalman into the team as a winger, just like Ethan. There's no reason to rush him into the 10 position. I know everybody's dying for a 10, but Ethan is ahead of him in the pecking order. It's fine for him to be introduced on the wing. He's definitely more of a number 10, but there's nothing wrong with where he's playing now. So yeah, this is a lineup. This is not what I think we're going to see. I think Marino's going to be in there in the position that Eze's in, and the front line will be something like this. I don't know. It could be Saka. Nicholas says, good point. I just know more of our first 11 than we think will play for sure, you know. But yeah, score predictions. What do you guys think is going to happen in the game? It really, no. It really should be, you know. But yeah, score predictions. I'm going to go with 3-0 Arsenal. Ethan scores. Trossard and Martinelli score. That's what I'm going to go with. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. I gotta change this. I really don't think it's going to be this. I really don't. It's giving me the heebie-jeebies. It's going to be that. And now the more that I think about it, because of Arteta's who he is, it's going to be Saka, isn't it? And Dalman will get like 20 minutes, and they'll be shitting bricks on the side, on the timeline when Dalman's not in that starting 11. But you just know Mikel, don't you? Now, why is he not showing up? Yeah, more likely this. If I see Marino and Norgard in the same midfield, I'm watching a Disney movie instead of the match. I'll be at the gym. I'll listen into whoever is doing a watch along. They're 19th in League One. This should be a breeze. 4-0. Newcastle, that's down to coaching always wanting to match them for physicality instead of play football rugby match in disguise. Yeah, we always turn it into a physical altercation with the masters of the art, and I just don't think we should be doing that. But I have a feeling it's going to be more like this. So yeah, but make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel on your way out, and please support the video that I made yesterday. I stayed up really late making that, so if you guys can support that video, I'd really appreciate it. The title is Mikel is the problem. So Mikel Arteta is the problem, but we will definitely talk after Port Vale. I'm not doing a watch along. I hate watch alongs. They are the bane of my existence, but post-match, definitely for sure. So tune in for that. But make sure you guys, like I said, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.